Hi everyone! This video is going to show you how to use Socrative, which is an amazing free formative assessment tool. It provides immediate feedback to students and gives teachers real-time data that you can use to inform your instruction. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to create your free account. So to do that, you just go to Socrative.com, set up your account. When you log in, it'll look something like this. So when you first log in, you'll probably see a random word or assortment of letters and numbers up top. This is the name of your room, and this is what students will use to type in when they go to join an activity. So you'll want to change this to something that's easy for students to remember, such as your name. Students will not have a username or a password. They will type in the name of your room every time that they go to join an activity. So to change the name, you'll just go over here to room, and you will type in the name that you're going to use for your students. So once you have your room name, the next thing that you'll want to do is actually start creating some quizzes. So to do that, you're going to click the Quizzes tab. You'll click Add Quiz and Create New. And then you can name your quiz. So I'm just going to name this Math. You can also assign your quiz to a specific standard. And all of the subjects are on here. So you can select any standard that you are going to be assessing here. So I'm going to turn that off for now. Now you can see here that there are 3 different types of questions that you can add. And you can add an assortment of questions. You can add as many questions as you'd like using all 3 different formats here. So I'm just going to show you how to add one of each. So the first type is multiple choice. And this is just very basic, very simple. You have lots of formatting options on here. So I'm going to just make this question, what is 5 times 5? And then I will put in my answer choices. And you can also add more than 4 answer choices here. And if you need to take any away, you can just click the X button here. You also have a chance to add an explanation down here at the bottom. And this feature is great because it allows you to provide an explanation that every single student will see whether they get the question correct or incorrect. And they'll see this explanation as soon as they submit their answers, as long as you have that setting turned on. You can also add a picture to your question or pictures to your answer choices as well. So this feature is great if you are planning to ask about a diagram or a map of some sort. So the last thing you want to do before you save this question is make sure that you have the correct answer selected. So I'm just going to come over here to this little check mark, and now I have the answer selected, and then I'll click the blue check mark to save this. So the next type of question is true or false. So for this, again, you can just type in your question. So I'll just say 5 times 5 equals 20. I'm going to make sure that this is false, and then I'll type in an explanation here, 5 times 5 equals 25. Okay, you can make your explanations more detailed. I'll click the blue check mark to save that. And then the last type is short answer. So for short answer, you'll first start by typing in your question. And then, so I'm asking what is the perimeter of a rectangle that has a length of 5 inches and a width of 4 inches. So the good thing about short answer questions on here is if you put a correct answer in here, it will automatically grade it for you. Now, the only caveat to that is that if you put in here, for example, 18 inches, and that's the only correct answer that you will accept, if students don't type their answer exactly like this, it will mark it wrong. So you might want to consider typing it every single way that you will accept it. So even putting the period there, if they don't include that, it'll mark it wrong. So every way that you would accept, make sure that you add that in there. This is a great way though, especially if you are a math teacher, for example, and you want your students to include the unit, you can make sure that you put that in there so that students are required to include that in order to get the question correct. Or if you want them to spell something correctly, this is a great tool to make sure that they are doing that. Again, you can add the explanation in there and then click your check mark to save it. So let's say that I decide I want the true or false question to go first. So I'm just going to use this blue arrow here to slide it up. and it moved it into the first spot. So you can use those arrows to move your questions up or down. This button here just duplicates the question, so that'll make it appear twice for the students. So now that I have one of each question type, I am going to save my quiz, and it'll take me back to the quizzes page. So if I want to edit it again, I just have to go here, and normally if you don't have folders, the quiz you just created will appear on top. Okay, so now I am ready to launch the quiz. So to launch the quiz, the first thing you want to do is go back to the launch screen, and you will click the quiz button. So you can search for the quiz you created, select it, and then click next. And you'll see that there are 3 different types of delivery options. So the first delivery option is instant feedback. If you select this, students answer questions in order, and they cannot go back to change their answers after they submit it. As soon as they submit their answers to the question, they will be provided with feedback. So they'll see if they got the question correct or incorrect, and they will see your explanation as well if you provided one. The second delivery method is open navigation. So for this, it allows students to answer questions in any order that they choose, and they can also go back to change their answers at any point before submitting the quiz. So they will not receive feedback after they answer a question. They will receive their total score at the end. They will not see which questions they missed with open navigation. The last one is teacher paced. So this gives teachers complete control over the speed at which students complete each question. So the first question will appear when you start the activity, but then students will not be able to go on to the next question until you allow them to. So this is great if you are doing a whole class activity and you want everyone to be at the same place. You can start the question, and then they won't be able to go to the next one until you allow them. All of these delivery options allow you to see the results in real time, and you'll see that in a second once we launch the quiz. So on the right-hand side, there's 5 settings that you are able to turn on and off. So the first is require name. I always recommend leaving that on so you know who is submitting what quiz. The second one is shuffle questions. So this just means students will see questions in a random order. Shuffle answers means that one student's letter A may be another student's letter B. So these 2 options are great ways to prevent students from copying off of one another. You just want to make sure, especially for the shuffle questions, that it doesn't really matter the order that students answer the questions in. If the order does matter, then you don't want to use that option. Question feedback means that students will see immediately after they answer one question whether they got it correct or incorrect. And then show final score, they'll see how many questions total they got correct at the very end. So I'll turn these on. And before I click start, I'm going to show you what it looks like from the student perspective. So students will join Socrative by going to socrative.com/student. And then they'll be asked to type in your room name. So I'll put in Berkey 225, which is the name of my room. And you can see that because I don't have the activity started on the teacher side of it, it's not going to let the students do anything. So you have to make sure that you actually launch the activity completely in order for students to work on it. So I'm going to go back to the teacher side. I'll click start. And right away, it takes me to the live results table. So if I go back to the student portion now, I'm going to put back in the room number. And sorry, it's making me do that because I'm on the student and the teacher at the same time. So this part's pretty important, especially if you plan to use this as a grade in PowerSchool. So when students enter the room name, now they'll be asked to enter their name. So I recommend having students type it in just as it appears, kind of faded right here. So you can see it's last name, comma, first name. So if they don't type it in that way, it'll always alphabetize by whatever word they put in first. So if you want to use this as a grade, it's a lot easier to do so if their names are alphabetized by last name, because that will match up with your PowerSchool gradebook. So I'm going to do Berkey, comma, Beth, and then I'll click start, and the first question appears. So what I love the most about this is that as soon as I answer the question, it gives me the feedback that I got the question correct, and it also tells the students the explanation. Now, if I go over here to the teacher side, you can see right away the students' progress, how many questions they've answered, and you can see which questions they get correct or incorrect. So you can change this as they're working too, to see their current score and the number of questions they got correct. All of this is live and updated as soon as students submit their answers. So I'll go on to the next question. And then let's say for this, I just put in 18. It will mark it wrong because I did not include the unit. So once I finish, it'll show the final score, and then it takes me back to the waiting screen. Now on the teacher side of it, I can actually see which questions students missed, and it puts this little check mark here that indicates that this student is done. You also have the option to hide the names as well as the answers. This is a great feature, especially if you choose to project this onto your smartboard or if you choose to share it during a Zoom meeting. So now that the quiz is finished, you can come over to the top and click Finish. We'll click OK, and then it's automatically saved into your reports. So if you go over top to reports, you'll have all of your data right there. Now I'm actually going to show you what it looks like if you have students complete an activity and how you can use this in real time. So let me open an activity I've done in the past. So just looking at this, it's really easy because it's color-coded, and then also it has the class total percentages right here. But I can see just from looking at this that I would go over number 2 with the entire class. The rest of the questions, either everyone got right or only one student missed. So I can also see here that a lot of students chose letter B. When I click on the number up top, it'll take me to the actual question. And then I can also click this How Did We Do feature, and it'll show which answer choices students selected. So this is a great way to project this on the board and have and go over it as a class. So back on the launch page, there are a couple of other features. The space race is very similar to Quizlet Live. So it's a way you can project it up onto the smartboard and have students race to complete the quiz. The exit ticket option is always going to be the same 3 questions. So once you start it, it starts automatically. The first question is just how well did you understand today's material? Second question, what did you learn in today's class? So they would answer this in a text box. And then the last question is a question that you would ask the class. You could either put it up on the board or have it written in your Canvas course, and students can submit their answers on Socrative. This is a great feature because it will then save all of your exit tickets in reports. So they're all housed in one place. Your reports, you are also able to save. If you go over here, you're able to save them to your drive or download them as well. And there's several different reports that you can use and download. So that's just a brief overview of how to use Socrative. I encourage you to create your free accounts and play around with it and start creating some quizzes to engage your students.